not to be, or more crucially, not to be pigeonholed into narrow social expectations.
That's kind of funny. Is that in a previous discussion, Quantum Joker, we were talking about Coraline, and we were trying to pin down a moral for the thing, and the morals of these two are very similar, and they seem to do with either individuality or learning to accept what you have, um, and learning to appreciate what you have. And that just seems so strange that a guy that yeah Tim Burton, a guy who always seems to go for the strangest, spectacularly dreary worlds, always seems to go back to that message of learning to love what you got.
I think that's very true, especially in Edward Scissorhands. That is a story of individuality and struggling against society's expectations. I think that I don't know if that's true in every film. It might be harder to see that in other ones, but I think that message of individuality is true in most of his films. I was gonna say Sally really I think displays that more than Jack because she doesn't ever change. She's constant throughout the film, uh, trying to break away from the evil professor and be her own person, and she never changes. So I think
Hmm.
that sort of individuality is more present in her than anyone else in the town.
And it could also be said that, well, uh, Jack Skellington is the major or the main figure of individuality in Halloween Town, but Sally still, I suppose, supplements this message. If you follow me, um, yeah. As you said, she's trying to escape from from the insane scientist, from her master creator. Um, her personal journey is somewhat of a parallel to Skellington's own journey of paving his own identity. So in that respect, both of them, um, uh, in my mind, Jack more so, but both of them do represent um, notions of individuality or finding one's self.
And then the last one would be the enemy, the villain, Oogie Boogie. Boy, he's scary. Who do you guys think is worse, Oogie Boogie or the children that feed Oogie Boogie? Who's the worst villain?
Well, I always got kind of creeped out by the fact that, or I mean, I wasn't creeped out. I was upset by the fact that they kind of they're worse because at the end, when it's all la ha ha, everything's good and good again, and it's about to snow and everything, they're supporting Jack, like they're basically leeches onto whoever wields the most power, and as soon as it was established that Jack had more power than Oogie Boogie, they're on Jack's side. Those guys, yeah, they're worse. I mean, I liked Oogie Boogie because he established early on that he does not play by rules, even though he likes to play games. And actually, come to think of it, that's a similar concept to the spider demon thing in Coraline.
Just about to say.
Because she yeah, so that's interesting. But yeah, I guess I do like that kind of villain who doesn't feel the need to play by villain rules.
The kids'
And
names were Lock, Stock, and Barrel. I just remembered.
oh yeah, I did like, by the way, their song. It's kind of creepy to say how much you like a song about some kids getting ready to kidnap Santa Claus and torture him.
And feed him to Oogie Boogie because they thought Oogie Boogie was gonna eat Santa.
Well, he was.
Well, yeah. Who do you think was worse than Quantum? The kids, Lock, Stock, and Barrel, or Oogie Boogie?
I would say that, well, I would actually say, that Oogie Boogie is probably the worst villain. Um, the kids are these three kids are his henchmen, and are thus, I suppose, are the means to Boogie's end. They are depicted as very immoral, but um, I suppose Oogie Boogie comes across as during his big reveal, we see him singing a charismatic, um, faintly jazz-like song. Um, in that case, he's essentially a you could almost call him somewhat of a seductive evil. Um, uh, and also once Jack Skellington defeats Boogie, you see that his sack covering conceals a mass of insects, of writhing bugs. This site essentially displays the horrid essence of Boogie even after he's defeated, and it does tap into some very primal misgivings in most people. Say, Boogie is on the one hand he's a charismatic, quite a charismatic, sly evil, but on the other hand, he embodies some of our deepest fears.
If I had to pick, I think I would side with Oogie Boogie being the worst.
Uh,
But I agree with Victor that in the end, the kids really are the hidden evil, and I'm not sure Jack should trust them at all because you can't turn your back on those kids for a second. And
You can trust Oogie Boogie to be evil. You can't trust these kids to be anything.
yeah, they are really. So it is. I think I agree with Quantum that Oogie Boogie being made of essentially nothing more than bugs really was pushed him over the edge a little bit above the kids, but I do agree that in the end maybe they are truly the worst of the evils. But if I had to say, I'm more scared of Oogie, just because he is the boogeyman. So I can't.
And that's something I wanted to talk is actually the fear concepts. Each of these characters, as Seth said, they all represent some kind of fear that people have, or some kind of horror concept. I noticed, for instance, that there are two kinds of clowns, but yeah, with I guess the two characters, Oogie and Jack. Oogie is the boogeyman, who basically represents in kids the fear of the dark, the thing lurking in the shadows and the weird shapes in the clothes, and that's why I thought it was a great idea for him to actually have a skin of cloth, since it's always like some hanging thing that you end up seeing awful shapes in. And Jack seems to represent the older, more basic fear of death, because he's a skeleton. He announced at some point that he is in fact dead, and I guess that's kind of an interesting idea. Primal fear versus primal fear in that case. I'm reading too much into it, and I know that, but at the same time, hey, it's our YouTube channels.